Welcome to Salaam Nerds Podcast. We do reviews and recaps of your favorite TV shows, movies, and current events.
Yo, it's the Salaam Nerds. My name is Steve, aka E1-3. I'm here with my boy Chad.
We drop live episodes on YouTube on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to all our supporters. Please help us by subscribing and leaving a good review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All episodes can also be found everywhere podcasts are found.
Yo, Salaam Nerds. It's your boy Neeps, aka Watch with Neeps, and I'm here with my co-host Jath, aka DJ Avocado.
DJ Avocado, yes.
Avocados at Law. That was that was the name of the firm that Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson were supposed to be. Avocados at Law.
You know where that comes from, right?
Because the Spanish word for avocados is similar to, for lawyers.
Avocado,
Yeah. It's so weird. You know, there's like one scene where Foggy talks about speaking in Punjabi because he liked some Indian girl. It's like random references in like these Daredevil episodes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lawyers, let's introduce our favorite lawyer.
Welcome to the show, Razi. How are you doing, man? How's everything going?
What's up, guys? Soon to be lawyer. Soon. I think it's like about 65 days until we get that JD.
Wow. Wow.
Round up.
So what does that mean? You're a lawyer, but you're not an attorney, or like you're an attorney, but you're not a lawyer, or that I don't even know.
So I'll get my Juris Doctorate at the end of May, and then I'll take the bar in July, and then I'll wait for the results, and then I will be an Esquire and avocado at law.
An avocado at law. Are you one of those things like they say it's called a baby lawyer? Are you one of those yet? What's a baby lawyer?
That'll be soon. That'll
be soon.
That'll be May.
That'll be your baby lawyer thing. Okay,
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Excited.
I'm excited to have a lawyer on this show, or soon to be lawyer on this show, as we discuss Daredevil Born Again. Who'd ever thought that we would get another Daredevil show with Charlie Cox?
Phenomenal casting. I'll say that.
I feel like it's gotten to the point where he's done it so much and so well that he's up there with like Robert Downey Jr., Iman Vellani, and like Hugh Jackman as like the best cast you could actually have for this character. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I would agree with that. I mean, he ever since like 2015 when the original Netflix Daredevil came out,
yeah,
he's been that Daredevil. He's just been perfect. And having him back, but be the same Matt Murdock and just go at it with the same zeal and everything that I remember I loved about the Netflix show, it's back and I love it. It's great. It's the nostalgia button again. God damn it. I felt nostalgia again, didn't I?
I get that. But like the thing is, people said that they filmed the show and then they had to do a lot of reworking with the show because it wasn't up to the quality standard that the Netflix show was. And Charlie Cox fought with them, and he brought back the actual fight coordinators, and he made sure there were like more scenes put in, and it was like grittier. So I don't know. I feel like maybe Disney was going to Disneyfy it, and Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio probably fought to keep it more in line with what Netflix did. What are your thoughts?
I mean, if that is what happened, because I actually haven't read into like any of the behind the scenes stuff, then Charlie Cox, 10 out of 10. You are a hero, both in the show and in real life, for doing this.
Yeah. Rosie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that we actually saved Daredevil. Remember the Save Daredevil campaign? That made this possible. And I think having those morsels from Spider-Man No Way Home and She-Hulk was like kind of a nice, like, interlude into this. Definitely it's been a long time since we've had the amazing Matt Murdock and Daredevil on screen, but it is such a delight to see the cast back, and Kingpin too. I mean, so incredible.
Speaking of people prowling in the in the back, I see your cat is just prowling the back.
He's gonna knock down the X-Men.
Have you heard about this new trend? I mean, since we saw this cat, I was gonna bring it up. Have you heard about this new trend called Ramadan cats? Have you guys heard about this?
No, tell me about this.
Oh my god, it's a trend on TikTok. It's called Ramadan cat. So what happened is the cats are usually like busy doing their thing, but since all the Muslims are waking up at like 5 a.m. to do sehri, the cats are waking up too. And like they're all videotaping their cats, and their cats are so confused and they're so annoyed, and they're like waking up for sehri also, and they look like humans. Like, you know how like when you get up for sehri, you're not, you feel like you just woke up and you're kind of just like, nobody talk to me, nobody say anything, nobody look at me, I just want to eat my food and go. The cats are the same way, and everyone's videotaping their cats waking up for Ramadan, and it's so funny. It's called Ramadan Cats, and is on Netflix. I mean, not Netflix, on TikTok.
This is definitely a Ramadan cat. He just meows when I wake up and just goes crazy. So I can't wait for him to be a part of that. Maybe we'll get him a Daredevil costume in the meantime too.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the little ears, right? He can go for the horns. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of, the Netflix show, there are some things in this show that you could tell. One of the things that I noticed right away was this Daredevil is a lot more into acrobatics. Like, you see him using like the little grappling hook with the sticks, and like when you see that, what are your thoughts? Because like, I'm gonna say my thoughts were, you know what, I kind of don't mind that the Netflix series didn't use that. I was like, you know what, I kind of see where it doesn't really like fit in. What are your thoughts about that, Jazz?
Okay, so the nunchucks, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I know the grappling thing people have a gripe with, but I'm glad they showed it for one episode, because like we only saw it in really the first episode, and that's it.
Yeah, the tiny little scene, it shouldn't bother anyone.
Right, yeah. I'm just like, you know what? Cool. One scene, one episode. I'm good. Let's move on. And so that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. One of the things that I heard about this show is that the second and third episodes were actually the first and second episode. So the first episode was completely reworked into the storyline. So the whole thing with like Foggy dying and Bullseye and that entire fight scene in the beginning, that brutal fight scene, which sets the tone for the show, was actually not originally in the production. They went back and redid it.
I'm so glad they did, because in the original Netflix one, do you remember that one hallway scene with Daredevil just fighting?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, that scene.
Yes.
They brought it back, and it's like the first moments of the show. It was so good, and that's what I loved about Daredevil. Like they pushed the envelope there, because that was like one cut. Like it wasn't like multiple cuts put together. It was always one cut, and seeing it again just made me so happy.
Yeah,
it was so brutal too. I mean, just like they were just like duking it out. And I mean, I think he knew what was happening to Foggy, but he was like, I'm just gonna pummel this guy. And I mean, you just saw like the daggers, like Bullseye's daggers, like
18
all over his
daggers.
chest.
I know.
It was crazy. It was such a good fight scene.
It was such a good fight scene, and you can just see like all of the knives getting stuck on him. One of the things that I did also, like, they brought back Wilson Bethel, who was the original Bullseye in, I think, season 2 or maybe season 3. Three, right?
I couldn't even remember. Yeah.
Also, he is a proud proponent of Palestine. He's got a free Palestine sticker in his Twitter, so shout out to him. We love that. So I'm glad they brought him back, even though he was so brutal and so psychotic in this episode. I'm kind of curious to see where that goes, because we see him go to court, we see him get the sentence that he wants, and I really love that scene. There's a scene where like the jury puts him away, and Matt is like, yes, the system worked. Like, I believe in the system, and it worked. And you see him filled with hope. But Karen is already like done with this, and I think the acting is so phenomenal with Karen and Matt in the courtroom scene. What are your thoughts about that, Rezi?
I think for that, what I actually thought of it a little differently. I think Karen was so angry with Matt because she thought he killed. Okay, so one, she either thought that Daredevil was thrown off the building,
Yeah.
or two, I think she was like, oh, he intended for Bullseye to die, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of against what she thought his code was. And so she, I mean, obviously we'll see how things play out, but I think she was just like, you crossed your own line. Who are you? I don't know you. And by the way, your friend was dying. You did not come and help him at all. So I think that was kind of where that tension came from. And then if you noticed in the courtroom, Bullseye had like the kind of the mitts, and you would constantly see those in like superhero kind of, arrests or apprehensions. And so is pretty neat because, like, of course, like if he takes a pencil, if he takes a paperclip, he's going to kill someone, like, whatever it is. So I think, we'll see. I mean, I think also, Matt was just happy that he was just out of hopefully his life.
Yeah, I get that. What do you thought? What do you think, Jazz?
I'm so distracted by Rosie's cat about to talk everything over. Like the cat was just there, standing on the shelf, just like looking up, ready to pounce on something.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
I
lost it, guys.
Yeah,
My question was about the court scene where Matt Murdock finally finds out that Bullseye, Benjamin Poindexter, is going to jail.
Yeah, so specifically about Benjamin or about what happened after?
I'm talking about what happened with Matt, like the acting, the scene, how he interacted with Karen.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's right. Rosie did say that Karen felt like this was a betrayal of his values. And it's very interesting to see this happen in the beginning because obviously it's Daredevil Born Again, right?
Yeah.
We're going to probably see him come back to those values in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
But in this moment, right, Matt is locked into his rage. Even if he doesn't want to admit to it, he's like angry and giving into it. So much so
interesting.
Like he just beat the shit out of Dex there, right?
Yeah, but that was like in this scene, that was a year ago. I feel like he's a little bit like he left the vigilante scene and now he's just a lawyer.
Sure, but the anger's still there, man.
Yeah, I'm sure the anger's still there.
You can feel it in his voice. Like, he's so angry and he's so happy that this guy's getting life in prison and that this idea of justice is working for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's like wishful thinking almost to me, especially with what comes later with episodes 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Right, like, this is just him giving into that side of him, but then we know real quick it's going to turn around. And having them show it like the way they showed it in just episode 1, you don't even sense it initially, right? I picked up on it thinking back to it in episode 3. So they structured this really well.
The thing is, first of all, how did Bullseye even survive that? He literally fell off a building and you're like, oh, he dead. And then he just like, and you're like, what?
Just gets up.
Gets up. It's so bizarre. I love that guy's acting, but like it does seem a little like he's over the edge. He's psychotic. Another thing I really like about this film, this show, is they actually film in New York City. Because I swear to God, if they tried to film this in Atlanta, it would not look like Daredevil, the original. And I think people would be so like turned off by it. And that's what they do. Like a lot of the shows, like almost every single Disney show is filmed in Georgia, somewhere in Atlanta, somewhere in Georgia. But Daredevil has to be in New York. It has to be filmed in Hell's Kitchen.
Wait,
man. It's a big part of it.
I remember now. Dex was thrown off a building in, I believe, season 3 of Daredevil. And so then there was like this experimental metal spine thing that went on with him.
Oh.
And so, yeah. Bullseye got modified at the end of season 3. And he's like Terminator. Yeah, exactly. He is a modified person. That's how he survived that fall.
That makes sense.
Carlos,
Yeah.
you the best, man. We got to get you back on at some point.
Shout out to Carlos. Carlos in the comments. Yeah, that's so he kills Foggy. Foggy is dead, which is sad because I like Foggy. I like seeing him in the show. He's from the Mighty Ducks. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. But they start this season off, and it starts off with a bang. I love the New York City feel. And then when it comes to Wilson Fisk, it turns out that Vanessa took over the business and it's more profitable than ever. And
I need a Vanessa in my life.
I know Vanessa's badass, but instead of like appreciating his wife, this guy goes to like find Echo, who does not want anything to do with him. And he's all like, whatever. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to run for mayor just randomly. And I was like, you know what? That's so far-fetched. Why would some random rich guy who's a criminal want to just run for mayor and actually win? That is so far-fetched. And then 2016 happened, and then 2024 happened. So, Rusty, any thoughts about that?
Wow. You're the federal employee to ask about this?
Never mind. I'll actually ask.
No comment. I'll leave it to Jet.
Yeah, Rusty can't say shit without risking getting fired, okay?
That was too funny.
Oh my god. And also, this line in the comments, I guess you can say Matt Murdock's vision is foggy.
Matt Murdock's vision is foggy. That is true.
Oh, 10 out of 10 line, man. We love
Well, what do you think about Fisk running for mayor? What do you think about that, Jess?
I mean, I'm so glad they're doing this storyline. Like, when art imitates life and then life imitates art, it's always a fun time. Because then you can really see, like, okay, this isn't fiction. Like, what can happen if a person like Fisk becomes somebody with power, right?
Yeah.
And you see the effects of it. And we're seeing the effects of something very similar. So this kind of stuff helps people process what they're going through in real life, even if they don't want to admit to it. You know for a fact there's some people out there that are like, no, everything's fine. This is normal. This is a good thing for all of us. Having it shown in art and seeing it from the other lens, essentially, because you're kind of forced to see it from the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it from this lens will help people process what's happening in real life, and hopefully that can bring some real change in the real world. But also, it's going to be for some great entertainment.
Yeah, I agree. It'll definitely be for some great entertainment. And I also feel like there's a lot of topics that this show is kind of hinting at that may be real life references. And one of that is these police officers with these Punisher tattoos who seem to be really into the Punisher, thinking the Punisher is their dude. That's their guy, which is really interesting because so many of the Punisher comic book writers have come out and said, yo, Punisher does not like these corrupt cops. He's not a fan of these corrupt cops. And also he's not a good guy. He's not a hero, which we see in, I think, season 2, where he's in court and he's like, I liked it. And he's like, the reason I did it is because I'm a bad person. And you see that. I really thought that part's interesting, and I think that's going to be the next part. The first 3 things were about White Tiger, and now I think we're going to move into some of the Punisher storyline.
Rest in peace to White Tiger.
Yeah, rest in peace. I'm going to go talk about White Tiger, too. I have a whole thing about White Tiger, which I think...
I also mean the actor, like...
Oh, yeah, that is true.
He unfortunately passed away from cancer, so...
That was really sad. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, what about the Punisher stuff and the cops? What are your thoughts on that, Jazz?
I'm so glad they're doing this line too, because given how many people related to law enforcement, I'm having to choose my words very carefully here.
Mm-hmm.
Given how many of them had some connection to law enforcement, especially the people from January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing how they got out and how they're behaving now. Showing the storyline is, again, very reflective of what's happening in the real world and what has happened in the past in other similar situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, choosing words is hard when you're on the fly, when you can't just say what you want to say without people going batshit crazy.
Being a
But
little PC.
yeah,
We
right.
got Carlos in the comics. In the comics, Frank Castle isn't wearing the classic logo anymore because it's been so appropriated by the Gen 6 folks.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. So there's a like huge real world connection to all of this.
Yeah,
And I'm so glad they're leaving these lines in here and intentionally forcing people to think about it,
yeah.
because we need this more than ever. Like, this is going to be a revolutionary show.
I feel like this is one of those things that's going to like really annoy a lot of people, and they're not going to enjoy this show because of that. Which I am like, well, that's tough for you because,
But they're going to watch it. They're going to watch it.
yeah,
You know they're going to watch it. And that's the point.
yeah, I get it. I get it. Rosie, what are your thoughts about when Fisk and Matt sit down in the diner and have that conversation about him not being a vigilante anymore and Fisk running for mayor? I thought that was a very interesting exchange. The acting is so gravitas, and you can really just like feel the levity in that scene. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think Vincent is such an incredible actor. He like the way that he portrays Wilson Fisk is next level. I mean, you hear him in the interviews, and then you see him on screen as Kingpin. You're like, this is not the same person.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is so he is so on point. I think he's also elevated Kingpin as a character even beyond what we've all seen in comics.
yeah,
Um, and both like it's weird because he's like kind of this sophisticated like crime boss, like
right.
and also like you said, the gravitas, like the making his omelets, cutting his eggs, and that kind of thing. Having this routine, but the diner scene, you know, where he's like, it's not too unpleasant to see you as well, essentially something like that. And I think like it's like Joker and Batman, like he cherishes the rivalry,
Hmm.
but he also wants to make sure he can put Matt in his place, and he
Yeah.
makes that known. And then Matt claps back and says, "I'll be right there if you step out of line."
Yeah.
So I thought it was a really, really powerful scene. It was also like advertised a lot in kind of the promos, but I think when you see it in full, I think it's far more meaningful and solid.
Yeah. One of the things that I really like about this Fisk is that it's back to him being a more grounded character. I felt like in Hawkeye, they took some liberties with his character, and I didn't really enjoy that. Him being strong enough to rip a car door from its hinges and getting beat up by Kate Bishop and in a comical Hawaiian shirt, which I get it, is comic accurate. I get it, but that's not the Wilson Fisk we know and love. What are your thoughts about that, Jazz? The differential between the two.
So, this Wilson Fisk, yeah, so it's no secret I thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or
No,
sorry, Hawkeye.
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye was one of my least favorite of the Marvel animated shows, right?
Yeah,
I've made that a point throughout the years.
sure.
And that a lot of it had to do with how they portrayed Wilson Fisk there.
Hmm.
And so coming back to the roots of the original Netflix show,
Yeah,
this is something that's like, okay, they took my criticism and tried to fix it. And it's not what I expected by any means. I mean, how nervous he can be, like you see his arm, or like his hands fidgeting in like almost every scene whenever he's like somewhat uncomfortable.
yeah,
But like, it's so cool to see that he is this mob boss, but he's also has other side where he's for the people in a way, but then also he is himself, and he is, I mean, I'm hoping they're going to eventually show that he's somewhat on the spectrum, and that it shows that anybody can be anything, which is a really cool thing to see.
Mm.
And the way they're trying to portray it is really cool.
I didn't think about that of him being on the spectrum, but he does show a lot of those,
The
characteristic
little
traits.
ticks, yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. So something is going on with Fisk because every time we see his hands, they're all like bloody. So he's doing something or beating somebody up, but we don't know that yet. He does become mayor, and him and his wife go and celebrate, and he says that he knows that she's cheating, and her reaction to it is, "Don't kill him." Oh man.
I respect it. I respect it.
Makes
All right.
sense. But it's really interesting because he says, like, he doesn't get mad. He goes, "You cheated and it's my fault." And he takes ownership of it. And I think that's really, really interesting. And then they go to therapy. Rosie, what are your thoughts about the Kingpin in therapy?
No, it's funny. I think I think Vincent was talking about he was going through kind of similar things as well, and so it was almost cathartic to kind of go through that process through kind of the behind the scenes interviews and whatnot. So I think they're at a very different place. You can see them at opposite ends of the couch, not sitting next to each other. Very cold to each other. And she's basically like, he left and I had to run the whole business, the family business essentially. And as someone who has no experience doing that, I mean, she's like an art dealer, right? So, but she found a clever way to kind of launder money through her kind of art, dealer interest, her art gallery interest. So I thought that was pretty interesting, kind of like personalizing, that criminal enterprise through something that she, knows and loves, and something that, we as fans have been tracking through like the 3 seasons of Daredevil. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it will continue to play a big part in the show, and we'll probably have some kind of big moment there, or maybe outside of therapy between the two of them.
I call BS on one thing you said, and that's art dealers have to learn how to launder money. They all know how to launder money. They all know how to do that.
Okay, yeah, I'm so glad we went the same way. I was going to say, like, this is a legitimate problem in the art world where, like, you'll have fakes of paintings that sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, and then, or, people make art and sell it for hundreds of millions of dollars, even though it's, like, worthless shit. And so when you get that valuation for it, then it's like, oh, I own this hundreds of millions of dollar piece of art, and I'm a famous artist now. And that's, how drug dealers are laundering money, is they're propping up their own artists, elevating them to make their pieces worth something. And then when somebody else takes the bait just for a bit, then that gives them enough credibility to launder all their money at their high art value prices.
Yeah. Well, not even laundering money. It's also used for tax fraud, right? Because like, you have money and you buy this expensive painting that's worth like $1, and you buy it for $1 million. Now the value of that painting is for $1 million. Now you donate that money to a charity auction, and now you bought it for $1 million, and now you sold it to an auction, so you're getting double the money back. So it's one of those things. It's like, you buy it from a charity auction, so you're putting it on taxes for a charity thing that you bought. Then you donate it to a charity.
Yes.
Then you donate it to a charity, and then it's one of those things. It's tricky. It's sneaky. We're not telling you how to do that, guys, and we're not telling you to do that. I'm just saying. It's just I've heard about it being done.
Oh yeah, Carlos, duh.
Carlos says there was definitely a back and forth behind the scenes of how comic booky they wanted the street level corner of the MCU to be, from Fisk being a quasi superhuman to Matt being a Spider-Man-esque. True, I agree. Also, we see Fisk actually mention Spider-Man in this episode, which is really interesting because he is just as much of a Spider-Man villain as he is a Daredevil villain. And I'm very curious that we might see him as a adversary to Peter Parker and Spider-Man. That would be wild.
I mean, I'm hoping to be Miles Morales and not like Holland or anything. Like, that'd be cool too.
Well, they did talk about Officer Morales in the list of all the people that White Tiger saved.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And is interesting because people in the comments were like, well, his name is not Officer Morales, it's Jefferson. Actually, that's not true. In the comics, he changes his last name to his wife's name because his name was associated with crime because of his brother who ends up being a criminal. So yeah, I totally buy that. I get that.
Yeah, you know, you're right. That's Jefferson. It's Jefferson Davis. Jefferson, what's the last name?
Yeah, Jefferson Davis, right?
I think so. Or maybe that's
Or the Officer
Confederate.
Jefferson.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also tired from Ramadan.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's talk about White Tiger a little bit, right? One of the first Latino superheroes in Marvel in general, of Puerto Rican descent. I think the actor does such a great job with this character, but I do have mixed feelings about this character because, number one, at ground level, they do the emotional connection so well. They do a great job with his heritage. They do just amazing acting, and you really feel for the guy who is White Tiger, but not so much White Tiger, the superhero character. I feel like they gave him a costume which wasn't super great looking, and they kill him off. And people are upset that like we get Marvel's, Latinos finally get their Black Panther, and he dies in 2 episodes. And people feel a certain way about that, which I think is valid. You're thinking like, okay, his amulet, they don't even talk about the powers that it gives. It's just they're being very vague about it. It's supposed to heighten his senses, so like he should be able to see a guy about to pull a gun on him, and he kind of just dies in a very like a shocking way, but kind of like, come on, man, you're a superhero, like you can dodge a bullet like that. So a lot of people are upset about it, but we also know that there is like his daughter who could take up the mantle, and maybe that might be setting that up. So there is hope. I feel like both arguments are valid. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Rizzy or Jazz, go ahead.
Let's not forget the actor who played him died.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if this was reworked as a way to just...
Yeah, you think so? Because he was in costume. It could have been anybody under that suit.
Correct, yeah. I think this was a way to rework it. It just didn't feel right. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it could have gone either way. I think they could have had that intention anyway. I think the arc of the character, I kind of saw that coming. Just because he was vindicated, and then he puts on the suit proudly, and then he goes outside to fight crime, hears someone scream, boom. So like, I think part of it was planned, but maybe it wasn't. And yeah, like you said, like anyone could have been under that costume. And yeah, it could have been better. I actually was looking up White Tiger, and I think they could have done him. They kind of did him a little dirty. I agree, Neves. I think, especially if you get representation on screen in a Marvel like property, like you want to like take care of that, right?
Yeah.
Because there's like, just like, Muslims and Pakistanis were so thrilled to see Miss Marvel on screen.
Right.
Black people were so excited to see Black Panther on screen, and just like to take care of that as a community is just as important, for the studio to honor that and to kind of see that through, instead of to just off them like in 1 episode or 2 episodes.
Right. This was definitely not something planned, because like I can see Disney trying to sell White Tiger toys and all the other merchandise.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, this was definitely not planned. I mean, I don't think it is. And before I forget, Carlos, this comment is so devious. My God. It says the decision to name a black man Jefferson Davis is wild. If you don't know who Jefferson Davis is, he is the first president of the Confederacy.
Yep, that's why I
Yeah.
paused for a second. That's why I was like, wait a minute, is it? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Carlos.
why I paused too.
I was like, am I remembering correctly? And yes.
I doubted my
Thanks,
memory
Carlos.
too.
That's crazy. Carlos also says, I don't think they reworked any of the storyline, to be honest. I think they just saw him as a means to skipping ahead to Ava, White Tiger, which is possible because that is the one kids are more familiar with because
Right.
she's in the Spider-Man cartoon. She's already in the toys. She's in a lot of things that like little kids already know of. So I would not be surprised if it was a marketing decision because they're like, we need to bring her in, maybe bring her in the Avengers, the Young Avengers. Who knows? Maybe we'll see her in Spider-Man. Could be several things that we could see her in. But yeah, I think like I get what they're doing. They're like, okay, let's take a superhero that people care about and let's put him through this crazy, rigorous, courtroom scene, make everybody feel bad for him, everyone really hurt for him, and then we kill him off and give this big shock and everyone's like in shambles. I get that. It's very easy to evoke emotions. I understand the storyline, but I do feel like it was a little insensitive to do to a character that meant so much to a certain community.
Yeah. Also, yeah. Let's end with that on that specific thing because I do want to talk about that court scene.
Yeah.
Can we go into that and talk about how much I hated what it did to Matt Murdock's character there?
Yeah, I agree. Are you particularly talking about how Matt outed White Tiger? Because
Yeah.
that pissed me off.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we're all
this
the
is
same
not his
page here.
character.
What do
This
you
is
think,
like
Carlos?
amateur hour for being a lawyer. Like, terrible. I
Yeah.
am not happy with the way that went down. It was just poorly written, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and Reggie, go ahead. Why don't you go?
No, I was going to say, so right now I'm doing clinic, and one thing in clinic we're learning is that it's a client-centered approach to anything we do. At the end of the day, the client makes the decision. The lawyer's job is to just really explain the law in layman's terms, to walk them through the different options that the client can pursue in terms of legal strategies, and to go down that path. This is like completely against the ethics of really any lawyer. And I mean, this would definitely, like, I'm definitely in agreement with the judge as well as opposing counsel that this should have been sanctioned. Like Matt's behavior should have been sanctioned, which is it's not great for a lawyer, but could incur fines, other things. And so like you don't do that. I mean, I think for one, you can't take your own personal like feelings about, you putting your suit aside, your superhero costume aside, and, kind of take it out. And just because you expose, you realize this really important detail about your client's background, you can't just reveal that without their permission. It was very unethical and unfortunate that it came to this. But yeah, Jazz, I'd love to hear what you have to say. We can talk about this more.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's the thing. Like, the whole point of him putting down the mask and everything is so that he could show justice through the law, right? This is making a mockery of that law. Like, this totally throws the whole build-up in the first episode out the window. And I'm really upset about it, honestly. But Neebs, go ahead, man.
Yeah, look, I do agree that it gave the show the tension that it needed, right? You have the informant coming in and he's about to get killed. You don't know if he's going to make it to court or not. Super anxiety inducing. I love that scene. Then he switched it up on you and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? So it's a great way to build tension. But when it comes to the character of Matt Murdock, like, it didn't make sense. Don't forget about the law. Like, logically, it doesn't make sense because if you lose everyone in jail now knows he's the White Tiger. You're pretty much giving him a death sentence. If he lives, you told everybody that he's the White Tiger and his family. They know who his family is. They know where he lives. All these cops have every information about him, and it's a death sentence. Matt Murdock literally killed White Tiger, is how I feel.
Yeah. Carlos makes a good point here. He says, I think I'm willing to give this series a break on this plot point because I think the point is that Matt effed up. Hector's death's on his hands now, and this could, that's the end of Carlos' thing, this is what I'm saying, is that this could lead to more rebirth, essentially, or reborn.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I agree. That's the thing. We've only seen 3 episodes, so like this might be the point of doing that. He did this dumb, stupid thing. It's his fault. And he has to live with his guilt, and obviously, homeboy's Catholic, so they know their guilt.
Yes, they do.
So we may see him, dive into his religion and spirituality, and go to his priest and all this stuff, which I really enjoyed in the Netflix series. Like they really dove into his Catholicism, and I found that very fascinating. Even as a Muslim, I found that very fascinating.
Yeah. And he had a good pastor too. I think that was the other thing. I think when you have like a good religious figure that's kind of on the other end and helping to guide, I think that also helps to navigate that rebirth. And I think you have basically different parts of Matt's life being completely undone. His superhero alter ego, his day job as a lawyer is unraveling. So what is next in terms of kind of like the hollowing out? I mean, it's Ramadan, right? I mean, we're kind of used to this where we cleanse ourselves of food so that we can fill ourselves spiritually. And I mean, that's basically, homeboys in Ramadan. Like this is kind of what Matt's going through.
Technically Lent, if you think about it.
Yeah. Lent, yeah. But let's adopt him. Let's adopt him for this.
Yeah.
Brother Matt.
Brother Matthew. So yeah, I do still really am enjoying the show. I have a few things that I nitpick and stuff like that, but overall I really am joining them. We did talk about Miss Marvel earlier, and Miss Marvel's dad is going to be in this show, which I'm really excited about. And I think Sana is actually a producer on this show. So she probably comes in when they start revealing Yusuf Khan. And I'm very excited to see that. I'm excited to see if he lives or not, because the actor apparently is a little problematic. So this might be an opportunity to kill him off. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but that's going to be very interesting. Yeah, the dad. I don't know. Have you heard?
Mohan.
No, I haven't heard any of this.
Oh yeah, he got caught sending inappropriate text to I believe a minor. Maybe not a minor, maybe someone really young, but just it was bad.
It's gross.
That's stuff I love, bro.
Astaghfirullah, indeed. Yeah.
But no story ever came of it. It was never like a big deal. It kind of just went under the radar. So I don't know. I don't know if it was a real story. I don't know if it was fake, but it looked real to me. But it never became like a big thing.
Then. Let's send Frank Castle then.
Yeah. A minor.
Carlos. Fucking love you,
Carlos.
Kendrick
struck a chord, and it's probably A minor. All right, with that being said, I think we might want to end it on that note. Get it? Note, a minor. Anything else that we didn't talk about the first 3 episodes that you guys want to mention before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, I don't think that's actually Punisher at the end. Duh.
Oh yeah, that's definitely not
Punisher.
Think so? No.
Well, he's got the. Okay.
Yeah, but they show the cops adapting his sigil, right? So like
true.
They have the tattoos on their necks and they have the tattoos on their arms. They seem to be in this little cult where they see the Punisher doing all this stuff and taking justice into their own hands. And they're doing that, which is interesting because, like, to be fair, that's exactly what Wilson Fisk is against. Vigilantes. They're vigilantes, but they're also cops. Very interesting how this is going to play out and how this is going to go. And it almost feels like they're setting it up for Civil War 2, because Civil War 1 was mainly about registration, and they're talking about registration in this show. So there may be a Civil War Part 2 about the actual registration, and I'm curious to see how that would go.
Team Cap.
Always Team Cap.
Yeah, we'll see. I was
What,
Team
you
Cap in the
Tony?
comics. No, I'm Team Cap in the comics, but I don't know. They can switch it up on us. Who knows? They're tricky like that, Marvel.
Yeah, they are.
That's true.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We got one more comment. Let's see. What does it say? Ending episode 3
Oh my god.
with the Koki's
crickets.
over the end credits is the single most Puerto Rican moment in the MCU history. That's so
Bro.
true. I noticed that too.
I was
Yeah,
ready to
it's
shed
dope.
tears when I heard of this.
That's pretty sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
that was
That's pretty beautiful.
That was
I love
really
that.
good. The whole story about it and like how like the people of Puerto Rico, like they love it, and then people who visit that are not really from there can't stand it. And I thought that was really interesting because Puerto Rico's having that issue right now. There are people like Logan Paul who are claiming to live there for tax breaks and stuff. And they're not like real people, and they're buying a property and they're doing all this stuff. And the people of Puerto Rico are like, get these people out of here.
I'm okay with that. We can get rid of Logan Paul. That would be okay. Yeah,
Support
right.
him.
Yeah, of course. All right, well, that's all we have for this episode. Thank you everybody for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And always, until next time, Salaam, nerds.